In order, if you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Coyne.
Here.
Hare.
Here.
Hazeltine.
Present.
Lamb.
Here.
Rose.
Here.
Shields.
Here.
Simpson.
Here.
Reading of the minutes.
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields.
I move that the minutes of the July 11, 2022 regular meeting as prepared and submitted by the clerk be approved.
Second.
Any discussion on the approval of the minutes? Will the clerk please call the roll on the approval of the minutes?
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coyne.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Reports of standing committees. The Finance Committee met prior to the council meeting this evening. It will again meet on September 12th. Health, Safety, Sanitation, Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled, nothing to report.
Public Properties, Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled, no report this evening.
Special Legislation, Mr. Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing to report, no meeting scheduled.
Streets and Sidewalks, Ms. Hare.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report and no scheduled meetings. Thank you.
Water and Utilities, Ms. Hazeltine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing new to report and no meetings currently scheduled.
And Emerging Technologies, Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meetings scheduled and nothing to report. Thank
you. Request for council action. Since we've been on break for what seems like forever, we have a long list for the Finance Committee. We have 22-162, resolution to adopt updated comprehensive plan. 22-163, CHIP grant, private rehab, 412 West Washington Street. 22-164, CHIP grant, private rehab, 30 Circle Drive. 22-165, target of opportunity grant contract, AM Plumbing, BWS. 22-166, target of opportunity grant contract, Calvary Mechanical, BWS. 22-167, transfer general fund to the police fund. 22-168, budget amendments. 22-169, transfer to the general fund of the railroad fund. 22-170, transfer to MCRC operating to MCRC capital fund. 22-171, transfer to the general fund of the parking fund. 22-172, advances to the general fund of the airport funds. 22-173, advance from the streets stormwater fund of the grant fund OPWC. 22-174, establish new fund, special projects fund 1, Ohio opioid settlement fund. 22-175, JCG payment, Carlisle brake and fiction products. 22-176, adjustments to the purchase orders and budgets due to the fuel cost. 22-177, increase expenditure for Davis Tree Farm Forestry. 22-178, amend planning and zoning code 113702 and 113704. 22-179, increase PO 22684 Epic Aviation. 22-180, increase PO 22594 Pradco for the police department. 22-181, JCG payment, Sandridge Food Corp. 22-182, grant application Ohio Criminal Justice Service Grant Muni Court. 22-183, approve ARPA fund for Fire Station Number 1 HVAC. 22-184, deer hunting program Lamb. 22-185, 2022 city auction. 22-186, approve ARPA fund project Monarch Carpet 1. 22-187, increase PO 22689 Cocosing Service Department. 22-188, bids discussion South Court curb replacement program. 22-189, loan application for Ohio Public Works Commission. 22-190, agreement with county to operate and maintain city sewer system. 22-191, amend ordinance 12022 emergency state route water line extension. 22-192, cooperative purchase fitness equipment MCRC. And finally, 22-193, purchase for firefighter turnout gear. Ooh, told you there's a lot of them. Reports of municipal officers. Mayor Hanwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to welcome back the council after your summer recess. The state of the city will be presented to council before the next council meeting on September 12th and to the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce the following day at Williams on the Lake, September 13th, 2022. And then I just wanted to mention the Medina City Schools students and teachers returned on August 17th. Prior to them returning, we had the streets department freshly paint the school zone pavement markings as well as all the crosswalks in the school walking areas. Respectfully ask parents and the public to watch for the children walking to and from school and obey the reduced speed limits of 20 miles per hour during the arrival, departure, and it's also applicable when the students are out on the school property. So if a class is outside on the grounds, then the speed reduces to 20 miles per hour. Police officers are monitoring the traffic during the arrival and release times, as well as being directed to stop in periodically throughout the day and walk through the school buildings for increased presence and safety of the staff and students throughout the school year. I'd like to thank Chief Kinney for implementing same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Durham, Director of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's a few things on the agenda that came from finance, and I'll address them when we get there.
Thank you, Mr. Huber, Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Mrs. Marshall, Economic Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this evening.
Chief Kinney, Police Department.
Thank you, Mr. President. As an add-on to the mayor's comments regarding school being back in session, I just want to remind everybody that the buses are also back out on the road and that you need to be cognizant of when they're stopped and their stop arm is out. We get a slew of complaints from the bus drivers, and it's an expensive ticket. So just be aware the buses are back out and be careful.
Thank you. Mr. Gladys, Building Official.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Mr. Piccoli, Service Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Mr. Patton, City Engineer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple notes about our projects. Our Ray Mallard Park improvements, which is the dog park and the parking lot expansion, is under construction. We expect that to be completed within the next 30 days. And next week, our concrete street repair program will begin.
Thank you. Mr. Worley, Parks and Recreation Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. As summer's coming to an end, we do have modified hours at the Memorial Park Pool. We have our last 2 weekends, this coming Saturday and Sunday, and the following. We'll be open from 11 a.m. to 6:45 p.m., again, Saturday and Sunday, and on Labor Day. Our splash pads will continue to operate through Labor Day with modified hours at Ray Mellert Park. The splash pad Monday through Friday is on from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. due to construction, and then operating as normal, 12 to 8 on the weekends. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Walters, Fire Department.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Mr. Dutton, Planning Community Development Director.
Thank you. As you're likely aware, we've received an application for a downtown hotel on South Court Street. This application was heard by the Historic Preservation Board, the Planning Commission, and the Board of Zoning Appeals at their last meeting about a week and a half ago. All three boards and the commission tabled the applications for further discussion. Based on input at the meeting and a good suggestion from our law director, we've scheduled a work session with the boards and the developer on September 20th, 6 p.m. here. This will be an opportunity for us to learn more about the project, discuss potential impacts, and consider the appropriateness of the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Notices, communications, and petitions. There's none. Unfinished business. There's none. Introduction of visitors. Members of the public are permitted the opportunity to speak on any issue or concern which pertains to the city during the portion of the council agenda devoted to introduction of visitors. All comments should be directed to the chair, and a reasonable time limit of approximately 5 minutes will be imposed. If there's a group, please appoint a spokesperson. Speakers should approach the rear microphone and state their name and address so it can be entered in the minutes. Members of the public will be afforded the opportunity to comment on other portions of the meeting as determined by the chair or by a majority of council members present. Is there anybody that wishes to address council at this time? Wait, one guy in the back first, and then ma'am, you're next. Get back in the back there. To the podium? Yep, to the podium.
Thank you, Council. My name is Lance Traves. I own the building 239 South Court Street. I also run a business called Labyrinth Management Group out of that business location. And I think most of Council knows me and my wife, but we have owned that building since 2004. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to hear a little bit more of the human side of what I believe is pretty strong opposition associated with the current design and site plan for the proposed hotel on South Court Street, and sort of get a basis that where I'm coming from. So we purchased our building, like I said, in 2004, and we did that because we came out of the township and we wanted to have a location that we believed in for both our business and our employees and our clients to actually grow and appreciate the unique city that you have. We've had a long reign there and been relatively successful for a small business. But during that time, we've actually seen the growth of the city and the historic district firsthand. So we put in a couple $100,000 into our building. You know, we got a community design reward in October 2006 for that as an award of excellence. Medina County Commissioners in 2007 awarded us, I think, their first and maybe only green building award at that time for the green sustainable design aspects that we incorporated. But we still maintain the historic character of that. And I would invite anyone at council to stop by 239 South Court Street to see that. What I'm getting to is the vitality of the district is tied to the historic character of the district, and I believe that very strongly. And I believe that the recent efforts on the part of the city that date as, you know, recent as 2013 and 2014 reflect that, with the establishment of the Historic Preservation Board and a lot of the additional efforts in regards to incorporating the design guidelines and such into substantial projects. So I just wanted to put forth my feeling that this is not a one and go situation, that, you know, we all travel hopefully to unique cities. I travel all over the United States. I've seen the historic district begin to thrive. People are moving in, and I've been looking for like a house that was a former office that wouldn't take too much to make sure we're ADA compliant. And I've lost out on those bids, and actually the applicant's company, historic company, has actually been my agent for those. And the reason I've lost out on those is because people are buying them for residential within 1 block or 2 blocks of the square. And they're converting those uses, and we've seen that at the last Planning Commission meeting. And that's because people want to be able to walk and enjoy the district as it is. And I just think that this current site plan and this proposal is so far off of what is reasonable for the historic character of the district that it is hopefully something that Medina recognizes, because I do, and I'm certainly building the record so that I think you know, everyone can be held accountable to that. I'm optimistic September 20th that we will have some substantial modifications on the part of the applicant. But it basically is a highway hotel. You know, there's places you can put it. I could give them some advice in regards to the Kmart building that's being demolished, and e-bikes and e-scooters, and it's only a half mile from downtown, and you could locate that thing within the city right there, and it would fit. It would fit right in with the current design. But that current design is excessively large. It's not consistent with the zero setback or minimal setbacks on the district, and other significant developments have been approved and are going to be built, hopefully, that actually meet those criteria. So I would hope council would make sure that the city does their job. They're the technical resource for all the boards. My first request to you is, I think that this is a significant project. I think the city should do their own parking study. The parking study that was done was totally deficient and biased. And it's something that is a trivial cost. I'm in the biz, and I know that you could have an engineer that you directed to do that if your city engineer, you know, doesn't necessarily just agree with the components I brought up and just throw it out completely. But I mean, there's different aspects that the city has to do to make sure that you're properly supporting the boards, because those are individuals who are not city officials. They're relying on the city to provide them the accurate and complete information. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Carol Erickson. I live on Hedgewood Drive in Medina. I am a USA Pickleball ambassador, and what that is just a volunteer position. USA Pickleball is the governing body for pickleball. I know I've written emails and I've talked to people here about pickleball. My question is, I understand that there was a grant for some pickleball courts in the city, and that fell through. We're hearing a lot of rumors, and then I was understanding, I want to know if that's correct. And also, I heard that the courts at Ray Miller, or at Sam Macy Park and Ken Cleveland are not going to be maintained any longer. And I would like to know if there's a possibility that we formed a pickleball association, Medina Pickleball Association. It's a nonprofit. In order to raise funds, it was required, I guess, by the city to maintain the courts. And I want to know if, rather than just abandoning the Ken Cleveland Court, if the Medina Pickleball Association could take that over. I know with my emails that I've sent you, you know a lot about the benefits of pickleball and how much fun it is. And I do a lot of teaching. I was just talking to Crystal with Let's Make a Difference, the nonprofit, and I'll be teaching the kids there next year at their camp. I'd like to do some teaching for our police and our fire too, because once you try it, you'll love it, and it's so healthy for you. So I'm wondering, what's the status of the pickleball courts here in Medina?
Mayor, Mr. Worley?
Yeah, there's a bit of misinformation that you have there. We have no plan to stop maintaining our existing courts. In fact, we did a volunteer service project at Ken Cleveland Park with the Pickleball Association. We provided them with paint, crack filler to work collaboratively with them to actually install an additional court. So that's why there's 2 there now. Sam Macy Park is not able to be renovated any further than crack sealing and overlaying because we can't get equipment back there due to the size of the baseball field. We still have plans and an area identified at Ray Mellert Park for future recreational courts, and we actually have a budget hearing the end of the month where we're going to discuss that. When we initially applied to use ARPA funds, we were asked by council to pursue a grant opportunity that we were made aware of, and we found out that we were not awarded. So we're going to have that conversation regarding those funds at our budget hearing.
Jansen, I thought Barbara said that we applied for either the state ARP and were denied and then went national, or vice versa.
The grant we applied for was not, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it wasn't affiliated with ARPA funds. That is an approved use of those funds.
Thank you. Hope that answers your questions. Yes, sir.
Hi, Nate Palmer, 1030 Burntwood Drive, and I'm here to talk about gear. So in the previous meeting and through the community on Facebook and whatnot, I've heard a lot about what ifs and what abouts, but I've got some realities. So this is my 3rd year in Medina, 3rd year trying to grow a garden in our backyard. The first year we didn't know that you couldn't grow a garden because the deer will eat it all. So we almost lost that entire garden before we knew what we were doing. The second year we spent hundreds of dollars. I didn't keep receipts, so I don't know how many hundreds, but more than 2 to put up a fence around our garden. That worked. We had a beautiful garden year 2. This year we tried to expand, and we hope to control it through some sprays and smells and other things. That has been successful for about 3 weeks, and now the garden is mostly decimated. It certainly doesn't help that some of my very kind animal-loving neighbors like to feed the deer, and they get, herds of 10 or 12 in their yard at night feeding them. Of course, after that food runs out, I'm sure they find their way over to my potatoes and take a good munch. So something needs to be done. I don't think that's really for debate. I think that's fairly widely agreed upon. Just one other anecdote. Some again, not some what ifs, but some realities. Like any good father, the other day I was driving and had the baby in the back seat, and feeding them some good healthy goldfish crackers. They had a good hold of that bowl of goldfish crackers until I had to slam on the brakes for the baby deer. The goldfish crackers, of course, were all over the floor, and the baby was now unhappy. And Dad had a hard time finishing the drive safely with, trying to worry about all of that. So again, just not some what ifs, but some actual things that are happening. So we need to do some things. So I haven't spent a ton of time, but I have done some research about this. And the lethal methods are not uncommon across the United States. You can actually go find lots of information about cities that have successfully implemented lethal methods. There was an academic study done about those methods. It's called Managing White-tailed Deer in Suburban Environments. And obviously I don't have time to read all the details here, but their conclusions are this. Communities often debate about the merits of lethal versus non-lethal strategies for managing deer conflicts. Although non-lethal control methods can reduce problems at a specific site, they seldom resolve community-wide conflicts. Obviously there's a lot more to it than that, but again, for time, I will leave it at that. So encourage the council to go forward with the lethal solution. It certainly has some what-ifs, but the realities are that we have to do something and that the lethal is the best option. And it can be done safely and effectively and not put the city at risk. And it's been done successfully in many, 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 many other suburban locations across this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council? Oh, he skipped, okay. Hide in the back there. Hide behind Miles.
Hi, I'm Skip Barron, 536 North Broadway Street. My wife Janet and I bought our house on North Broadway about 8 years ago. We didn't know at the time, but it was, I'm speaking about the hotel, by the way, just a little intro. We didn't know it was a historic house, but upon investigating, we found out that it had originally been built on the square where the new courthouse sits, the old new courthouse, and moved in 1937 to its current site, 4 houses down from Jim Gow's on North Broadway. So we moved here because of what we felt was an attitude that cared about the historic values here in Medina, preserving the past, forging the future, I believe it says. And I believe in that. We spent a lot of money on our house, putting new Pella windows in with divided lights, or simulated divided lights. We just had shutters put in that can open and close if we choose to, and a number of other improvements that we'll never get back, but we did it because the house deserved it. I'd like to read two little art statements here, a couple pages. Council members and city officials, I'm here this evening to voice my opposition to the design and site plan currently proposed by the developer for the hotel on South Court Street being considered. You may have heard this proposed hotel referred to as the Highway Hotel, and I believe that is an accurate reflection of the current design and site plan. Such a hotel has no place in Medina's public square historic district, as the design is totally inconsistent and incompatible with the unique historic character, charm, and legacy of the district. The City of Medina's building development standards clearly state, 1, any property in this district which is also located within the historic district overlay shall also be subject to the standards and guidelines in the City of Medina Design Guidelines for Historic Properties and District document dated March 2007. In addition, the Central Business District, as stated by Medina's code, has a substantial historic value to the city. Therefore, Medina's code has a large number of specific building development standards that the proposed hotel is requesting to have huge variances from. I believe I speak not for just myself, but by many others in saying that these variances, if granted, will forever adversely impact the essential historic character of South Court Street and the district. For example, the 96-foot setback requested so the hotel can have front vehicle parking and ugly diesel buses right next to the 1870 buildings is not consistent with a historic district and will ruin the historic street view, add to street noise, air pollution, and possibly be unsafe for street pedestrians. The applicant knows this, but his huge highway hotel only fits on the site and does not even look more ugly and out of character with the district when set back 96 feet. Essentially, the majority of the variances requested by the applicant result from the excessive size of the proposed hotel and cookie-cutter design. If this is the hotel the applicant wants, it will fit fine, as somebody already mentioned, at the Kmart lot or some other location. Other recently newly built or proposed developments in the historic district had fewer or no variances to the key historic design requirements, like zero setback, window facade style, sorry, I'm having trouble here, no front parking, natural building materials that are critical to maintaining the historic character of the district. And by the way, we all know the applicant's comparison of the proposed hotel size to the Medina County Courthouse, which is apples to grapefruits. Even with this exemption, it's not required to be in Medina City Code, but even with this exemption, county eventually used natural exterior materials and made some modifications of the design to make the expansion more historic. The highway hotel as designed simply must not be allowed to be built in the historic district. If the applicant walks away, I am confident in the unique historic character of the district will eventually bring another developer along with a historic design that fits in and is a huge benefit, not an adverse impact. And the last thing I want to add, I had read this article a while back and I dug it out. It's from May 4th, 2013. From the Eastern Medina Post editor. It reads, contractor saves building out of love for city. 620 Corporation completes monumental restoration task of Medina Square property. To fix the foundation on the property, well, after the 122 Public Square building caught fire about a year and a half ago, this is as of 2013, property became completely unusable. As the building sat idle, even more problems arose. Rainwater poured into the building through a large hole in the roof. Foundation began rotting away, and even the walls and ceiling began to sag. Worse yet, most companies had no interest in renovating the building simply because it didn't make financial sense to do so. Luckily, Jim Gao, who I was privileged to know for 8 years, owner and president of 620 Corporation, had something other than his checkbook on his mind when he accepted the renovation challenge. He just said, it's one of those things when you drive by and it just drives you absolutely crazy to see the damage, Gao said. Medina's been very kind to our family over 5 or 6 generations, and I feel we owe a lot to Medina. And I do think we have an obligation to pay back where we can. Without sounding corny, it was just the right thing to do, and we just happen to be the people in position to do it. Craig Hannon, at the time Community Development Director, said one of the main reasons he likes with 620 is because Gao tends to take on tasks that other developers won't. The site on the square is one the city had been dealing with long-term from a maintenance standpoint. There aren't many developers in town taking on those type of projects. Gao said the damage to the building on the square was much more extensive than he previously thought. Foundation was nearly destroyed, and to fix the issue, Gao's team had to suspend the building by hand digging around the perimeter and replacing sections at a time. In addition, the tight property constraints forced Gao's hand in some renovation decisions. We actually own 0 property outside where the building sits, so we had to buy thin bricks, real bricks, instead of regular bricks, so we didn't have room. Despite the unexpected workload and cost, Gao said he was happy about it. It's a neat old building. We just wanted to see if we can get the building back in shape. And then eventually it became Second Soul, and Jim had worked with people in the city and architect to come up with the design and what would be there. And again, the reason I bring this up is the hotel that's proposed, I don't know the person at all. I know his name, but he claims to have a great deal of concern for the city of Medina since he grew up here and his family grew up here. But if he does, he should be like Jim Gao and do the right thing and make proper modifications to the building so that it fits where he intends to put it, and it's a plus for the community, not a minus. Again, my wife and I could have moved anywhere in the country when we retired. We decided to move to Medina because its reverence we felt for history. And sometimes I get a little discouraged lately with the destruction of two buildings that could have been saved, jacked up, put new foundations under, and they could have been saved. But the people didn't want to invest the money. So anyhow, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council? Well, I have one letter that I was asked to read in the council at this time. It's from Scott and Jeannie at 821 Dogwood Trail. It reads as follows. My wife and I have lived in Medina for 32 years in the same house. In the past 5 to 6 years, the deer population and problems have escalated and have become destructive, unmanageable, and very costly to the homeowner's property. In our yard alone this year, the deer has eaten to around 175 hosta plants, 22 potted ferns in pots on our porch, patio, and yard, along with 5 large planters of flowers. In addition, we can no longer enjoy and feed the birds because the deer will empty the feeder in less than 15 minutes. The deer have no fear of humans, and they have a large ravine full of vegetation to eat, but they prefer homeowners' landscaping. We've tried everything on the market to repel them, and we've also tried home remedies. Nothing works. My husband and I took a walk through our neighborhood and trail and counted 29 deer in that one walk. I don't know if any of you have ever hit a deer while driving because they run out in front of you, but I have, and it's terrifying and very damaging to your car. Yes, these are the nice-looking animals, but they are not pets. They have no natural predators here. The herds needs to be majorly reduced for safety. It is out of control. Thank you. Okay. Moving on now, we'll move on to the introduction and consideration of ordinances and resolutions. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on the following ordinances and resolutions. Resolution 14422, Resolution 14522, Ordinance 14622, Ordinance 14722, Ordinance 14822, Ordinance 14922, Ordinance 15022, Ordinance 15122, Ordinance 15222, Ordinance 15322, and Ordinance 15422.
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields.
I will make a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings of tonight's ordinances and resolutions.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion to suspend the rules? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the motion to suspend the rules?
Hazeltine?
Yes.
Lamb?
No.
Rose?
Yes.
Shields?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Coin?
Yes.
Hare?
Yes.
Motion passes 6 yeas, 1 nay.
Resolution 14422, a resolution authorizing an application to accept reimbursements from the Patrick Leahy Bulletproof BGA grant for the purchase of bulletproof vests for the police department.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields.
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on emergency clause and a resolution. Chief Kinney.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is our annual bulletproof vest grant through the federal government, and the emergency clause is requested based on the timeline of the grant. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion on the resolution or the emergency clause? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause?
Lamb?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Shields?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Coin?
Yes.
Hare?
Yes.
Hazeltine?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the resolution?
Rose?
Yes.
Shields?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Coin?
Yes.
Hare?
Yes.
Hazeltine?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Resolution 14422 passes 7-0.
Resolution 14522, a resolution authorizing an application for grant assistance from the State of Ohio, Ohio Public Works Commission relative to the Issue 1 LTIP program funding for the replacement of the Medina Street Bridge.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields.
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the resolution and emergency clause. Mr. Patton?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is our annual submission to the Ohio Public Works Commission. This year, we've selected the Medina Street Bridge for replacement. The grant will be in the amount of $490,000, which will pay for a little more than 83% of the total cost of the project. We asked for the emergency clause because the grants are due in early September.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the emergency clause and or the resolution? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause?
Shields?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Coin?
Yes.
Hare?
Yes.
Hazeltine?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the resolution?
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Resolution 14522 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 14622, an ordinance declaring the necessity to appropriate a permanent standard highway easement on a property as set forth on Exhibit A for the replacement of the Gates Mills Boulevard culvert.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Shields?
The emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on emergency clause and ordinance. Mr. Patton.
Thank you, Mr. President. In order to complete the Gates Mills Boulevard culvert replacement, we needed to acquire 3 easements. We've successfully acquired 2 of those. The third one, we have not yet gotten an agreement from the property owner. This legislation will allow the law director to pursue that easement. I would note that recent conversations, I don't believe we're going to have to go this route. The property owners are kind of agreed in principle. I'd like to go ahead and pass this in case we do not get his final signature, but I think we're all very hopeful that we will not need to appropriate.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment? Will the clerk please call the roll on the emergency clause?
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
And with that in mind, hopefully get the easement, would the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Ordinance 14622 passes 7-0.
Good luck, Patrick. Ordinance 14722, an ordinance authorizing the increase of expenditure to Epic Aviation for the purchase of Jet A fuel for the Medina Municipal Airport.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Shields?
The emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on emergency clause in the ordinance. Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is due to the increase in fuel prices. This one, unlike the rest of them for the city, doesn't in the net cost the city anything because this is fuel purchased for resale, so the price has gone up on the fuel that we purchased, but the cost that we charge to people who buy the fuel from us has gone up, so it nets out. As far as the emergency clause, I note that this is the 4th ordinance, and it's the 4th one requesting the emergency clause, so with apologies to Mr. Wetzel, this is because we have run out of funds to pay for fuel, and we need to refill the tank.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Rose?
Keith, do we raise the prices as the market price goes up, or do we wait until we get a load
No.
and then raise the price?
In the fuel business, the way it works, when the price goes up, we make lots of money because you sell at current market price. But when the price goes down, you lose a lot of money because you know, if we buy this fuel and then price drops by a whole bunch, we will end up selling fuel for less than we paid for it. And you just hope in the long run those things kind of net out. You know,
So you follow the market, you don't
Yeah,
wait
you have-
till you get a load? Okay, all
Right.
right, thank you.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll on adoption of emergency clause?
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Ordinance 14722 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 14822, an ordinance authorizing the payment to Crouch Enterprises for private home rehabilitation at 412 West Washington as part of the fiscal year 22 CHIP grant program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Shields.
The emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause and the ordinance. Mr. Dutton.
Thank you. Yes, this is a CHIP private rehabilitation project at 412 West Washington Street in the amount of $80,000 to Crouch Enterprises. And the emergency clause has been requested to allow the contractor to initiate the project.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption of emergency clause.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Clerk, please call the roll on adoption of the ordinance.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Ordinance 14822 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 14922, an ordinance authorizing the payment to Crouch Enterprises for their private home rehabilitation at 30 Circle Drive as part of the fiscal year 22 CHIP grant program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Shields.
The emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
The second includes emergency clause.
Mr. Dutton.
Yes, this is a similar program or same program, the CHIP program at 30 Circle Drive. It's $57,000 again to Crouch Enterprises, and the emergency clause again is requested to start the project.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption of emergency clause.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Clerk, please call the roll on adoption of ordinance.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Ordinance 14922 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 15022, an ordinance authorizing the payment to AM Plumbing LLC for the work performed at the Bed and Women's Shelter as part of the CDBG Target of Opportunity Grant.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Shields?
Emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the ordinance and the emergency clause. Mr. Dutton?
Again, this is a CDBG Target of Opportunity Grant for the Battered Women's Shelter. It is $109,332 for plumbing work to AM Plumbing LLC. And again, the emergency clause is requested to get the work started.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption of emergency clause.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Clerk, please call the roll on adoption of the ordinance.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Ordinance 15022 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 15122, an ordinance authorizing the payment to Calvary Mechanical LLC for the work performed at the Bed and Women's Shelter as part of the CDBG Target Opportunity Grant.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Shields?
The emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Mr. Dutton?
Again, this goes with the last ordinance for the Battered Women's Shelter. This is $102,066 for HVAC work for Cavalry Mechanical LLC. And again, we're trying to get the project started for the emergency clause.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption of emergency clause.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Clerk, please call the roll on adoption of the ordinance.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Ordinance 15122 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 15222, an ordinance authorizing the finance director to make certain fund transfers.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're not requesting the emergency clause on this one. There's 4 transfers here. One is relative to the grant with the court and the police. The second one is the railroad fund. That's the city's annual contribution to the operations of the city's railroad. The third is the increase in the contribution to the capital fund for the rec center. We and the school each contribute to capital funds to maintain that. And then finally is parking fund, and that one, the parking fund does not have really hardly any revenue. So we periodically transfer money from the general fund to cover the costs that we engage in that fund.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption of the ordinance.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Ordinance 15222 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 15322, an ordinance amending ordinance number 20121 passed December 13, 2021, amendments to the 2022 budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are a lot of budget amendments this meeting. I don't think you want me to go through them individually. We discussed them at finance. There's a few things for grants and then just basically straightening out balances so we can get through the year.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption of the ordinance.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Ordinance 15322 passes 7-0.
And finally, ordinance 15422, an ordinance authorizing the finance director to make certain fund advances.
Move to approve.
Sorry. Second.
Discussion, Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Advances are a loan from one fund to another. Generally, these are with grant projects where we're loaning money from the general fund to the grant fund. Then we do the project, pay the expenditures, get reimbursement, and then repay the advance.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption of the ordinance.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Ordinance 15422 passes 7-0.
Council comments. Anybody?
I got it.
Mr. Rose?
Let Jessica.
For once, mine's actually very quick. I did want to acknowledge that on August 31st, it is Overdose Awareness Day. So please take a moment to remember those that we have lost to mostly heroin overdoses, but any substance abuse disorder that did cause an overdose. I will not be here for a few weeks because, as some of you know, my father, my very best friend, lives overseas, so I will be going to see him. So you will not see my smiling face up here. But I would like to recognize that September is Suicide Awareness Month. And as a suicide survivor, it's very important to me, and I want to put that out there so that people know they're not alone.
Thank you. Any other council comments? Mr. Rose?
Can we get a picture of you and stick it there while you're gone?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a big head one. Ask Bill. I bought him one for Christmas. It's just my head on a stick.
Okay, thank you. Couple of things. This evening was rather contentious on both sides, and there were a lot of disappointed people, I think. But one thing that I learned after the meeting, in talking with some residents, they didn't know everything that we went through as a city before we came to this conclusion. And I hold Sarah and Alyssa personally responsible for that. You gave one side of the story in the newspaper. You did not give both sides of the story. So I hope that gets corrected so that everybody sees both sides of the story, that we're not just going willy-nilly doing something that hasn't been tried, hasn't been fully vetted. This is something, what we're being asked to do is something that's been done for 6 years, since 2016 to 2022. And it was after we had a meeting where Jansen said that we have to count the deer, that we waited until he got his full count. So I would hope that starting tomorrow, we start seeing both sides of the story on controversial issues and every other issue. We don't just see one person's bent on how he perceives things. Because his opinion is not the majority opinion of this city. That group that was here is not the majority opinion of this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other additional council comments?
Yeah, just this. You know what? I think it's just wonderful that we have a free press. I know there's a lot of folks that would like to control the free press, right? And I know there's people that probably want attention, and maybe they don't get it, and maybe they feel less than. I'm not really sure. But I think you just write what you think you need to write, and I'm happy with whichever way it lands. It's always worked for us for, I don't know, 200, how old is the country? 200 plus years, right? Free press, great. If it's good for me, good for the community, fine. If it's not good for me, but good for the community, I'm happy to have it, right? So have a good evening and write some great stories. I love you both. Bye.
With that, I'd just like to reiterate what Denny says. Let's be kind to one another. Meeting adjourned.